feels like regulations, right? So yeah, as regulators, the first thing when the world of cryptocurrencies and blockchain came out and decentralized everything from your coffee to Pornhub, everything is decentralized, everything can be changed, everything can be, that. And when the AFM and other regulators, so not just the Dutch AFM, of course, much stricter and harsher regulators like the Swiss and the Swedish, and the Austrians are still a bit backwards, and they saw it, and their first response was a very solid no, thank you. It was a pleasure. Come again later. It was too risky. It didn't look right. Some stuff in there felt shady. And I know, coming from a more traditional financial background and assessing projects and assessing political parties, certain fundamentals at least felt not there. There were a lot of question marks. And for us as a fund, and I think that the approach was very clear, is to tell them, wait a second. Don't fear the unknown. Not because it's unknown, because there is a known in there. It's growing, it's changing. We didn't have just one crash, or two, or three. I can continue. It's an ever-evolving market. The professionalism in the field is changing, and we can measure it. And that's something that I'm very proud to be in one of the only funds that has the capabilities and the track record to do the research necessary in this field and set what it means to choose the right digital asset, as the regulators might prefer calling it. Mm-hmm. And the reply from the regulators was actually really good. Really good. Hopefully better. Nicer. Bad.
Not working?
Oh, no.
Updating again.
Took my thunder away again. Okay. They said no. No, I'm joking. They didn't say no. They were actually very open. They said, yeah, but no, but yeah, well, we don't know. So sorry for doing a British accent. It's horrible. If you don't know Little Britain, you should. So they did say yes, because finally we see value. It's not something that is just fizzling out. It's not, again, it's not the Pornhub or the casinos out there. There's actually real added value, something measurable, tangible. And they said, okay, we'll register you, but we won't regulate you. And we'll make sure that you follow all of our guidelines, which we, of course, immediately said, good. We'll go over it and make sure that we're even stricter, because for us, one of our targets is to make sure that we are fully regulated. Not just for ourselves, it's actually kind of counter my own ideology in a sense. I'm very much a free market libertarian, and for me regulation sounds horrible. But it helps the entire market. It helps the rest of the funds out there, both the ones that survived the years in the market and the ones that are up and coming. And we see ourselves very much as fighting the fight for, if anyone here is going to start a fund, for you as well. And the last one is to also offer and be the test study. Take a look at us. Learn from our failures. Tell us the failures. We'll be better, and we'll teach you, well, the AFM, the regulators, the big institutional bodies, where we did wrong, what lessons were, what they should avoid. And of course we have to choose, and that's where the no comes to. We have to choose between having just 150 investors, or will we go and be, and we actually talked about it a bit, a lot. Will we be the rich person's club? Will we just say the minimum is 100,000 and the maximum is 100 million? And of course the decision was the market is good, and we feel that restricting ourselves to a certain size because of the amount of people in it will be responsible. And we went, of course, with the amount of assets under management. And at that point, it's important to also address why. Because I think that for a lot of people, hearing so many regulations, I know for me, very much so as well, it feels unfair. It feels like, oh, they're targeting us because we're into what they call now the fourth industrial revolution. Well, I have a long beard. I'm not that old, but I do remember my economic studies in university, and I remember the lessons venture capital groups had to go through about 25, 30 years ago, and they had to go through very similar loops. They had to jump, and they had to always ask, good, give us the next step to go through, and we'll jump above that as well, and we'll prove our worth. And now in the Netherlands, the average VC company or the VC firm is around 100 million euros assets under management. So the AFM had kind of that gut feeling. They want to see that it's there, it's good, we can measure it, and it's good for the Dutch investor. God knows how many people lost money over, again, pardon my French, cheat tokens. How many projects went bust? And when someone really loses it all, who will he complain to? Well, he will complain to us, maybe. Luckily enough, no shitcoins here. He might complain to the company, but it doesn't worth anything. The company is now with a 404 error on the site. So he goes to the regulator, and the regulator has to say, sorry, what can we do? And that's the responsibilities as a financial institution that we have to take, and we have to prove, and we have to do, both for the regulators and for us, to build the trust, to be the diplomat that bring the voice of the market to the regulators and give their answers back, relate, tell you, all of you, that they're not this evil body out there. They care, they might take some time, it's a bit dusty, but we work together to make sure that it works. And of course it's an ever-evolving thing, so even after everyone will be regulated, I can assure you it will continue. So,
can I ask you a question anymore?
Yes, please.
Did you prepare a prospectus, or did you use an exemption? Because you keep referring to the conversation with the regulator. And
so we did have to create a prospectus. I think it's something that it's, first of all, there's examples out there. I think that if you want to ask also from us, we're always happy to sit and guide and show you what you might need when you set it. But also you need to think about what kind of partners you have there, because I know that for us, as much as work and dreams and our approach towards how we handle the regulators, we had really good partners like SGG, which is now IQ-EQ, because mergers is a thing outside. Also the HAFECA for the taxes. And between the different bodies, you can come with a good prospectus. Mm-hmm. But I would suggest, if you want, that's a bit of a private thing, so I for sure can sit with you. And what we do is we also give 2 hours pro bono for young startups every week. So if you do want and you have questions, shoot it. We'd love to sit with you. We're very open, especially if you do it in this field. So for us, it's important. I hope it touched somewhat. I can see that there's more. Let me know. I would love to sit with you. So as I mentioned, it's about showing how other regulators do it as well. So unlike 4 years ago, when Cyber Capital turned from initiative into a company, almost 4 years ago, we didn't have that many places to look to. We had Switzerland, but they had a very, I hope there's not a lot of Swiss, I know one, so I hope there's no one beyond it. But it was very Swiss, it was shady. It was, we're good to the outside, but we'll take that unknown goal from the behind. It wasn't fully set. Sorry, you're French Swiss. It's the German Swiss. Horrible. But then we had an example, and then Malta joined, and then Estonia joined, and then we started to see the Dutch regulator looks at it and say, oh, well, maybe there's something interesting in there. Maybe we could play with it. And they started looking towards how we set it right. And that really helps us. It still helps us. So when you look at the guidelines coming from the US now, it's what Korea did and Japan, it strengthens us as well, because we don't just have the regulators. We look at other funds. What did they do? How did they set it? How can we also barter with the regulators to tell them, hey, you're constraining a Dutch fund, and sorry I'm doing it in English, but I will also say it in English afterwards. But you're hindering us from competing with other funds around the world. You're hindering your own financial institutions. So that's an important point when talking with them. Following the guidelines is important. I know, I'm sorry, you need to follow the rules. It's very easy to start a project out there, go rogue, and awesome. It's fun. I have no experience in it, but it must be fun, because when I look from the outside, it's fun. Not for us. For us, it's all about looking at the guidelines and also then reflecting back and saying, that doesn't work. Yeah, you're not up to date. No. And why no? And explain it in details. In details. And it's not always fun, but it's what we do. Sharing experience and research, and that's the DNA of cyber capital. Research, research, research. I can't tell you enough how many bad mistakes I did when I first started buying tokens, looking at ICOs, and I still feel a shiver down my spine when I think about some of the investment decisions I made. But I was by myself, or zelf, it's Dutch. And I didn't have anyone to tell me that's wrong, that's how you see it's wrong. What is your strategy? Do you have a strategy? How would you approach it? And when you have a research team that is doing it, I won't say 24/7, people need to sleep, and they have a weekend and a birthday here and there. Well, not birthday, but weekends are good. And they're on it. And looking at the last week or so, we're sitting, we're reading, we're trying to grasp what happened, why now, what moves it, how it moves. And for us to share it when we sit in the ISO governance body and talk about with the Netherlands Bank and with the National Notary and with other big institutions, and we see that they're in the place that I was as an investor. I had no idea. They have no idea. Some companies think that if you transform your air miles into a block and put blockchain on it, it's blockchain. No. Experts in the field cashed out on that project, but sometimes it helps to have a team, perspective, disagreements, and then see what makes sense. And that's at our core, and it's one of the reasons that we are always referred as the poster child of the AFM. And it's because we generate mass amount of data that we take high pride, even if they might not agree in some points, even if our colleagues in other funds might say we want that data too. We take high pride, this is what leads us, that's our engine. And of course, taking action together. We've seen what happened during this past year. Why did it happen? Sharing that expertise. A lot of companies out there had the feeling that, yeah, we're a startup, so let's say we have blockchain elements and AI. Good, fundraise done. Didn't for a lot of companies. And sharing that expertise and taking action together helps every startup out there to not make the same mistakes. This is why we give those 2 hours pro bono. It could be more, but we still need to do the research. But it's critical for us to share it. And of course, building the infrastructure that all of us will have to operate on. Most of the time when people talk about this field, you reflect to the .NET bubble and to how the internet started and pets.com and so on. For myself, again, maybe it's the beer dragging me down through history. I look at Ford and I look at the first Model A and what that has done to the world with regard to revolutionizing and actually having roads. People don't take roads for granted. We had maybe pebble roads. We didn't have real roads. I mean, if we would go back in time, those roads there, if some Dutchman from the 19th century would come here, it'd be like, whoa, talk about upgrades. It's just not something that was also necessary. But when they decided to do trucks as well, suddenly they did the gas station. They need to fill the tank at a certain point. In this world, it might be the funds, the financial instruments to allow companies to continue on their journey. And we might not be an early stage investment fund, but there are those out there. We're more of a later stage fundamental driven fund. But we rely on those steps along the road, building that infrastructure. And luckily enough, regulators love infrastructure. We love infrastructure. And building it together makes for a good question time. So please feel welcome. If you have any questions, I'm love to answer in the name of cyber capitalism.